Sauce. Today's episode is called Saucy Livin. We will discuss living in a trailer versus a traditional home and some of the perks to both. We have Ryan and myself, Dan. Grab your favorite bourbon and join us for the show. Before we get into it, Ryan, which bourbon are you sipping on?
Well, today, Dan, I decided to go with a little bit of Larceny, give it a whirl. It's Larceny small batch, 92 proof. It's pretty smooth.
Not too bad for a new open bottle.
Nope, not at all. It's,
for your first pour of it.
Yeah, it's actually rather refreshing, I would say.
Refreshing. I like that. Well, me, as I spit all over the microphone, I decided to...
So you're a spitter.
I am a spitter. I'm a quitter. I decided to go with the Elijah Craig small batch. It's a 94 proof. I'm about done with the bottle because I like it that much. This is the second one I've had, and I find it to be a good sipping bourbon. So that's why I decided to pick this one, because we're, talking about living, and easy sipping and easy living kind of go hand in hand. So I figured, why not?
So you like it?
I do like it.
You
It's
love
pretty
it?
good. I wouldn't say I love it.
And
I
you
think,
want some more of it?
yeah, I like that. I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. I tried so hard. Can't get enough of it.
But you can't rise above it.
Oh, that's what it is. Can't rise above it. Yeah.
I don't know what it is about that little brown bottle, but I like it. I love it. I want some more of it.
Yeah. So, you have been living in
A camper.
a fifth wheel
Let's call it what it is. They're a camper, RV, fifth wheel.
trailer.
When
whatever.
you say trailer, people think of a double wide or single wide modular home that you
Yeah.
bring in, take the wheels off, and then it's stationary.
Right.
So it's a camper, fifth wheel, or RV. Thank you very much.
Right. And how long have you been living in that full time?
Let's see. Oh, God, out of the last 17 years, I've spent close to 13 years in a camper.
Holy balls, man. And you're okay with it.
Yeah.
Totally fine with it.
Hook it up and roll out.
I think that is one of the biggest benefits to having a camper, RV, fifth wheel, bumper pole, whatever you got, even if it's a pop-up. Is that if you go somewhere and you don't like it, you can just hook up and take off.
100%. If it doesn't, if it ain't good there, going down the street, there's another campground somewhere.
Which I think is a big benefit, because, you buy a house in a suburb somewhere, or, a city apartment or whatever it is, those are fixed. You're not going anywhere. And to usually turn around and sell it is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, especially if you got a psycho Karen living next door, or maybe a narcissistic Kevin. You never know.
Yeah. A narcissistic Nick.
Ooh.
A little alliteration.
Yeah, there you go.
A little Nicky. I do think there's benefits to both, whether you're in a camper or having a permanent house. What do you think the benefits are to you that you've had so far living in your camper?
So living in a camper, I can say you tend to acquire less stuff, but in reality, you get more clutter occasionally, right?
Yep.
Just if you're not careful, you'll get a little more clutter. But ultimately, you have less area to clean. It's got everything you need, comforts of home.
Right.
Stove, kitchen, shower, the whole nine. So
Yep.
you have everything you need right there. Hook up when you need to and roll out.
Right.
Power goes out. Oh, it's okay. Let me start my generator. I still have power.
Right.
It's very simplified.
Yeah.
Right.
And you have the propane too, so
Yep.
for a heat source, if you
So-
had to rely on electricity, you'd be fucked.
Right. So if power goes out, not only will my propane run the stove, the fridge, but also my hot water heater if I switch it off of electric.
Yeah, that's a nice perk, especially where we've gone through winter storms here before, and we were in the same campground when I first got here.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened where the power went out,
Yep.
and we were like, shit, and you had to run on propane. I
Yep.
didn't have a generator,
Mm-hmm.
so I was kind of fucked in that aspect.
Yep.
But I did have the propane, so at least the propane was run.
Right. So I
was running off the battery power enough, because most of the stuff is like 12 volt.
right.
So until the power came back on, which wasn't too much longer. But if I had to do prolonged, I would have been screwed. I would have had to go out and bought an actual gas powered generator.
Right. I mean, to also another perk of it, honestly,
Yeah.
is a lot of your campgrounds.
Mhm.
A lot of them have pools.
Yep.
A lot of them have small stores that you can go grab stuff at. You don't have to go far. Some of them even have laundromats. Actually, most of them have laundromats.
Especially if it's like a good one, like a KOA.
Right.
Those ones are usually decked out, but you're usually paying a little bit more for your lot too because of those amenities.
True, but then you're talking like they have weekend activities, right?
Yeah.
There's fishing. There's all kinds of different things they provide. So, I mean, it's more than worth it.
I did like the campground we were at just because it's kind of secluded.
But you were so close to town
but
and
you were
didn't even
right.
know it.
It was great because of how it was down in a little dip.
Mhm.
It was kind of the sound was masked. You couldn't hear the road noise or anything else, and you were 5 minutes from Wilma Rudolph,
Everything.
which has everything, and then you can come right back and go back.
That was
Campground.
Spring Creek Campground.
Yep.
In Clarksville.
Yeah, I left them a really good review on Google when I left.
I mean, obviously, there's things that could have been better, but at the same time, for what it was,
Right.
and for what you were paying,
Exactly.
100% well worth it. Great.
I think it was really priced moderately considering the area and the
Mhm.
influx that you normally have seasonally for the seasonal workers, like the construction workers and stuff that flood the campgrounds.
Super
and
peaceful too.
It is. And I like that, they didn't mind if you had your dogs or cats or, whatever, as long as you were responsible and respectful of everyone else. And,
I mean, I think we were the noisiest people there.
probably.
Yeah. Between me, you, and Kenny.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially on the weekends when we'd create, big old bonfire and
Yep.
crank the music and be out there drinking.
Hmm.
But I think that's another nice thing about trailer living or RV living is it's a community
Right.
within itself,
Oh, it is 100%.
which is different than like a neighborhood when you're in a traditional home, right? A lot of times, like for me, I'm kind of antisocial.
Yeah.
And so that's why I moved out into the country because I didn't want to have to deal with people right on top of me and being all about my business, even though we do have a nosy neighbor.
Yep.
And he still is in my business a lot. He means well. He's a nice guy and all. It's just a
annoying.
little too much sometimes, which is why I kind of stay inside the house so I don't have to deal with it. Which is another problem when you buy a house is that you can't really pick your neighbors.
Nope.
And in a campground, if you don't like whoever's by you, you can hook up, move to a different lot, or if you time it right and you get a buddy, you guys get your lots next to each
together,
other, and then you have like a giant lot to play horseshoes or cornhole or
Yep.
whatever. Park your extra vehicles when you have a party. And
Another good thing about living in a camper
Uh-huh.
is you want a weekend getaway.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, guess what? I
Mm.
don't need a hotel. I don't need anything.
Yeah.
Hook up. Bye for the weekend.
Yeah, which I remember seeing that a few times with people there.
Yep.
They would hook up and they would go to like Land Between the Lakes.
Yep.
And just take their camper with them, and then you got all your stuff, like you said, so you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about going in a hotel and worry about bed bugs or noisy ass people on the floor above you running around, or
Don't have to go out for dinner.
yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff. You have your fridge, so everything's a little cheaper.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to pay for the lot wherever you go,
But
but
you're
even
talking
then, for a
overnight
week-
stay like $30 a night.
right? And
At
that's
max,
full hookups
yes.
usually, and
And
again,
Wi-Fi.
it depends where you're at. Some of those places they give you a weekly rate.
Yeah.
And it's like $100, which
Yep.
is still cheaper than a hotel for a week, because most hotels are $100 a night.
Easily.
So you got to figure that. Plus, and that's not even like a hotel with a kitchen.
Yeah.
So
Now,
you
you're
have to
eating
eat
out every night,
fucking
right?
night,
Mhm.
and you're spending a shit ton more money.
Mhm.
So I think I do like that aspect of camper life or trailer life or whatever people want to call it. I know trailer has kind of like a negative connotation. People think trailer park trash and all kinds of stuff like that when you say trailer. But it's built on a trailer frame, essentially.
Now, I did live 3 years in Hawaii in a nice housing, and then when I came back from Hawaii, I lived in a duplex in Clarksville for about a year.
Yeah.
So that was my stint inside a stationary place. I gotta say, I had some really weird neighbors in the duplex in Clarksville, and I was
Yep.
happy as shit to get out of there. Hawaii was Had good neighbors in the cul-de-sac I was in. We were in a little secluded cul-de-sac.
Mm.
Had really good neighbors. We got along. We would shut down the whole cul-de-sac, cornhole, cookout, the whole nine, right?
Yep.
And then towards after my divorce, I moved out far side of the island
Mm.
and moved to the furthest south point you could get. Had a 4-bedroom, 2-story house. Me and my brother Dave.
Mm.
Private gated community, beach access, had a restaurant on the beach.
Beach
Like,
access.
you
Hey,
talking bougie and private.
Yeah.
Private. If you weren't there, you had to have a pass from somebody who lived there,
Oh,
right?
that's kind of cool.
So
Keeps the riffraff out a little bit.
very much so, very much so. But it was I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed living in a house.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, I don't use 90% of this space.
And that's where I'm at, right? So this house that I'm in is massive for a single person. And originally the intent when I bought it, I was engaged, and the idea was there was going to be a family living in this thing with multiple animals. And so I needed the space. Now, 2 years later, being single, the only people that are in the house are me and Thor 90% of the time.
Yep.
And now, like right now with my kid here, it's good for him because he's got places to run around in the house and whatever. But realistically, I could just live in a camper. Like if I'm considering when I come back from my trip to sell that smaller camper that I've got, get a fifth wheel that's either a toy hauler, because I kind of want to have.
We'll definitely want a workshop and a way to haul your side by side.
Right. So I would have that ability to convert that back half into like a workshop area. But the downside is if I wanted to continue doing the podcasting, then I'd have to really set up that garage space as a podcast studio on wheels in a sense.
Yep.
So I'd have to soundproof it a little bit and do all kinds of stuff back there. So I don't know. I go back and forth on the idea.
So let's put it this way with the campers, right? So used to, when you went to get like a loan for a camper or RV, it's a recreational vehicle, they were iffy, right? Now you can get a 15-year mortgage on these things, just like a house.
Yep.
Right? Because so many people have gone to tiny homes and campers and RVs. Because most of these people now, they telework and they just migrate.
Which I did see, when COVID happened, camper sales went through the roof because the fact that certain hotels were closing down. A lot of places were not letting people come and stay, or people just didn't want to deal with the bullshit of having to put on the mask and deal with all of that in a hotel, right? So you saw a lot more people moving into the campers.
Yep.
And the stigma kind of going away, because there used to be a pretty bad stigma when it was like, oh, you live in a camper. It's like, oh, you must be really fucking poor.
It was. I would say it was definitely a weird thing to live full time in a camper.
Mm-hmm.
But then it got to, I live in a camper. I travel all over the United States as a welder.
Right.
I'm HVAC. I'm this.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people in my years of living in a camper I've met that are HVAC, welders, carpenters,
a lot of blue collar workers,
plumbers, right? And you're talking
hard
to the
workers,
point where some companies move their campers for them just to move them to the next job site.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of big companies that do that as part of their relocation packages.
And to be honest,
which is cheaper than moving a whole household.
Granted, I had a great experience in Hawaii in my cul-de-sac, right? That is not always the case. I mean, and you see it on TV all the time. Neighbor gone crazy, right?
Right.
You have that crazy neighbor that just goes and goes and goes and goes until somebody snaps and kills somebody.
Yeah.
But you don't typically have that kind of craziness at campgrounds. I mean, a lot of these campgrounds, sheriffs just do courtesy patrols, right?
Well, we did have that one in ours where the cops came and they did a wellness check, and they pulled their guns thinking they saw somebody inside that camper.
Yes.
With a gun.
Yes.
It turned out he was admitted later to the VA hospital for some sort of mental instability. And then I guess he got arrested, and so his wife had to get that camper removed from the site. It was crazy. So you do see some crazy stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
but
it
it's
happens.
few and far between.
Right. Whereas,
as long as you're in a decent campground.
But you can get up and move anytime.
Right.
Whereas once you plant your ass in a house,
yeah, it's so much harder because, like I was saying, one, you have to deal with the pain in the ass of the banks to buy the damn house, right? Or if you're renting, it's still a process. And then if you want to sell, now you got to deal with the banks again and realtors and everything else.
God forbid you end up in an HOA.
I avoid HOAs. I was in an HOA twice in the times that I've bought homes.
Yeah.
Both times I regret it. The one was a bougie one, so it was like real pain in the ass. The other one was wanted to be a bougie, but you're only paying them like $15 a month.
Did you get the lady in your front yard measuring your grass with a
ruler?
ruler?
But they would drive around and they would send you a little nasty gram and saying, your grass needs to be mowed. Because, like, if your neighbor mowed yours and you didn't, it obviously looks like yours needs to be mowed.
Right.
And it's like, Jesus Christ, leave me the fuck alone.
Like, can we get on schedule here, Bob, so I can mow mine when you mow yours?
You got too many cars in your driveway. We're having a fucking party. You didn't clear it with the HOA. Like, go away, Or
like campgrounds, right? You have rules, right? And usually quiet times like 10 or 11 o'clock. But if nobody's complaining, right, you roll.
Yeah.
And at a campground, typically the way it works is, hey, we're grilling tonight. We're going to have some drinks and grill out and listen to some music. You knock on the campers to your left and your right. Why don't you come on over? Next thing you know, nobody gives a shit because the people that would be annoyed are now participating in your function.
The thing I noticed, too, a lot of campgrounds is they'll have a pavilion style set up somewhere.
Yep.
So you can do those parties where you're a little bit out of earshot of where everyone's sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to do a little get together and stay up late, you can do that without interfering. You don't really have that in a housing development.
Not typically, unless you're in like military housing where they have something like that.
Or like a super bougie one where you're on a golf course and you use, the clubhouse.
And then some HOAs will do it too. But it's a bougie HOA.
Right. But, I think another nice thing about being in a house is the plumbing. You don't have to worry about your pipes freezing typically like you do in a camper in the winter months.
You just let the water drip.
Yeah. Which is,
you didn't do that.
I didn't do that, and I paid the price for that because my lines froze multiple times.
Yep.
Which I think is an annoyance in a camper that you really need to insulate it well if you want to do 4 seasons. They're really meant to be 3 seasons.
But it's also no different than buying an old house where you have to let the water drip.
Yeah, if you have a super old house, yes, where it's like the copper lines or whatever, and it's an exposed basement or crawl space or something like that. Yep. Yeah, for sure. Nowadays with the PEX, it's a little more forgiving, which all the campers have the PEX line in them, which is great for ease for plumbing replacement.
Yeah.
Because I've had to do it a few times on my camper because I'm an idiot and I didn't winterize my camper and I blasted the 2 valves on the toilets because they froze and then they expand and they just break the valve in there and the water just pisses constantly. So there's a little bit, just like with a normal house, there's an upkeep schedule that you really need to stick to with campers.
But the upkeep for a camper is a lot less and it's much more do-it-yourself able.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? If I need to change a water line, I can access almost every single hose, every single access. If I need to change fuses, if I need to do this or that, right? We'll say 80% of the stuff, right, is simple Simon, easy to do.
Yep.
Right? And even if you don't want to do it, you can usually find a mobile RV mechanic that'll come out and do it. Like, it's too easy. But before I forget, you know what I think of when I think of HOAs? I think of that uptight, really prissy woman who is coming to your door and complaining with a yardstick about the height of your grass or that your roses aren't just so-so, when in really what it boils down to is she is not satisfied at home and she just needs a good dick down.
Yeah. She's just looking for something.
Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah. So in turn of not being taken care of at home, She is actually, you know what? Usually when I say not being taken care of at home, I'm saying this woman's not even married. Because
Well,
no
it
man
depends,
wants
'cause
to
you
put
have-
up. No, I'm saying no man wants to put up with her. She's just that super Karen.
In the military housing, you have those dependas that
Well, we're
my
not getting
husband
there.
is so and so. You need
Yeah.
to listen to what I'm telling you. You're
That's different.
It's different but similar.
That's
Different but
using
similar.
rank. That's using rank.
But
What I'm
it's-
getting at when I
it's-
think of HOAs, right,
Yeah.
is I think of this unmarried woman
Yeah.
who let her career and everything just obsess her.
Mm.
So she's all alone, and all she can do is just take it out on your grass,
Yeah, I guess.
you know? But really what she wants is you to take it out on her ass,
Yeah, probably. Take the ruler and
Yeah.
use it on her butt.
right? And then that one time you do that, and next thing you know, she's like, your yard looks great, and it's like a foot tall.
Yeah.
You have the best yard in the HOA.
Speaking of plumbing, in a
Is
house,
yours not working right?
No, mine works fine. But I'm thinking you were saying in a camper it's easy to access. In
Yes.
a house it's a pain in the ass because sometimes you have to cut through drywall,
Yep.
and that's not an easy job because now you gotta fucking cut up drywall, repaint, repaste, all that bullshit that goes
And then
along
some things you have to be careful of because of
Ugh,
coding. You
so-
have to hire a plumber.
So dumb. It's so fucking
Just
dumb.
like electrical, because of some
Yeah.
electrical stuff, you have to hire an electrician, so it's
Yep.
up to code.
Yeah, which reminds me of there's something I've got to pay for next year out in the front yard. Gotta get that explosion-proof box put in where the septic is that they didn't do.
Yeah.
So if we do have a spark out there, we don't have a bomb in the front yard. That'd be hilarious if it did go off, though. As long as we
I'm far enough away, it wouldn't matter.
yeah, it's probably just below a hole in the concrete down below the ground.
I don't know. It depends on how big the boom is. You might get some shrapnel in your bedroom.
That'd be interesting. I'd sue the builder if I could find him.
His mail still comes here.
No, that's just the guy who used to live here. That's not the builder.
Oh, so it's the guy before him.
Yeah, the
Oh.
guy before him built the house. And I think that's another thing. You can get a lot of these campers customized too if you're willing to wait, because I've seen somewhere where if you can custom order them and have whatever interior put in and all
Right.
kinds of different stuff.
So, like for instance, a lot of them come with this standard.
Yeah,
You don't
the
it's,
base model shit.
It's not even. It's like particle board,
Yeah,
right? Is like what most
Yep.
of your cabinetry and everything's
that
made
balsa
of, right?
wood.
Right.
And
So, like you go in my camper,
Yeah.
everything in it is hardwood, right? It's not particle. It's not patchwork. It is hardwood, right?
Yeah.
It was top tier when it was purchased.
Yeah, which
Right.
makes it heavier.
It is much heavier, right? But it's all hardwood. The carpet I don't like, especially with me having dogs. I would much rather rip all that carpet out and put it in hardwood. I just haven't figured out yet how the hardwood will work with the slides coming in and out. I don't want to cut grooves in, so that's something that can be figured out later. But there's
Yeah.
so much you can do to a camper, and it's so easy. Oh, I don't like this color. Okay, well then take the time to do a little sanding and paint, and you're done.
Do you have slides in the living room section?
Yes, I have 2 slides in the living room
Mm.
and 1 in the bedroom.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Are there metal grooves there?
Yes.
In the carpet?
No,
How do those slides go in and out?
they
there?
go under the carpet.
Oh, so you'd have to just have a passageway with that.
I would have to rip the carpet up and see what's underneath.
You
to
probably
make
could
that
just lay it right on
determination.
top of whatever the carpet's on top of.
Right, but I would have to rip the carpet up and make that determination on what it is underneath.
It's probably just a piece of plywood, I would guess. It's
Probably.
like got what's that thin board, feather strips or
We're getting off topic, but that cedar
Yeah.
that I got at the property, cut that, plane it down nice and thin, would probably look gorgeous and smell great.
yeah, you probably use all the shit that's in the garage. We just play.
Yeah, but I've got like,
anyway.
Yeah.
I
we're getting off topic here, people.
do think that's something, a benefit to homes, is that you can do a lot more customization to a home than you can in a camper. You've got a lot more flexibility.
I think it's more that you have more areas to customize in
Right.
a home, whereas in the camper, the area you have is the area you have.
Right.
Like, obviously, I'm not going to go around hanging a bunch of stuff in
No.
the walls because then I risk puncturing the
Right.
side of my camper, right?
Yeah. You gotta use
Um,
a lot of 3M hangers.
Right. So you got to, there's stuff like that.
Right.
But ultimately, if you're able to simplify down and being in the military, I will admit, you don't get to simplify down as much as other people in a camper because you've got 6 tons of gear you're dragging around everywhere.
Which is why most people end up with a storage unit.
Right. But I'm not gonna lie, I've lived in it with my ex-wife and her son, and then I've lived in it with me and the dog. So
how did that work? That was the same one you're in right now?
No, much smaller.
Oh my!
It was actually
God.
a 32-footer with a bunk section in the back.
Gross.
So I mean, it worked out good for 3 years,
Yikes.
almost. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Dude, my next door neighbor before you got to the campground,
Mm.
4 kids, 2 dogs.
Nope.
Him and his wife.
Nope. It was already miserable with me, the ex, and her daughter, and the fucking 4 pets in there. That was too much.
5 slide outs.
Oh.
52 feet.
That's a monstrous camper, one. But
And
2,
she remodeled the entire inside because she was a home decorator and got bored.
yeah. Well, that one lady, Chris and Marissa, they redid the inside of theirs. It looked really nice.
I don't know that they redid it. I think they got my neighbor who redid hers because they were friends to do it.
Well, either way,
Yeah.
it got remodeled inside
Yes.
theirs. It looked way better than what you would get at Camper World.
Oh, 100%.
Because that's one thing I don't like about mine is it's got that like vinyl interior seating shit.
Yep.
And that stuff sucks in the summer and the winter because it's just you stick to it or you freeze on it. You got to put blankets over it. If you have any animals, they scratch it or puncture it.
Yep.
So if anything, if I were to do it again, I would try to get something where it's upgraded, where it's not that shitty, pleathery, whatever.
Right.
Another issue that you have in campers is the possibility for mold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you have the mold in a house, there's a lot more effort that goes into it to get rid of mold. Like I had to have the mold abatement here because it got out of control in the crawl space.
Right.
In a camper, you usually can get to wherever the mold is and treat it yourself with a fungicide or whatever. But a house, it's, again, kind of like where you have to hire a plumber. You got something that massive, you're not doing that yourself. You got to hire somebody. And it's expensive. It was fucking like $60,000 to have all that. Well, it's 30. I think it was $30,000. Yeah. Because they had to do all the vents, everything. The air conditioning units, they had to clean out every damn thing. Pull out all the old insulation that was on the flooring, which I noticed the floors are a lot colder because they got rid of that insulation that was between the rafters.
Yeah.
But they did encapsulate the crawl space, so it's a lot cleaner down there.
Right.
There's no smell or there's no mud to step on.
Nobody wants anything smelly or muddy when you go down there. I'm just saying. If I'm going down and it's smelly and muddy,
right.
We need to visit the doctor.
Yeah, so now it's a lot cleaner down there for this house, and I think they should do that with every new build. That should be a mandatory thing. They should never just leave it gravel. And
I guess it depends on where you are.
I don't care where you're at. It should always be encapsulated.
I mean, what I'm getting at is like I don't think in Arizona it matters much.
You still get rain.
I get what you're saying, but I still don't think it matters as much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think every house when it's built, it should be a code now where you have the smart draining that goes around the perimeter of the foundation. One, it helps with erosion.
Yeah.
And 2, it takes the water where it needs to actually fucking go, the low spot, without causing...
your backyard sucks.
Yeah, without causing any erosion issues under the house. Because without that smart drain that's under there right now, there'd be a huge problem. So that's something you don't have to worry about in a fucking camper. So there's a perk there.
Right. Oh, very.
Where if you have uneven ground, all you do is change your jack levels and everything else, and you're fucking
right.
You're golden. You buy a house that's lopsided or sinking, you're fucked. You got to spend thousands of dollars to get that fixed.
What I don't like about houses nowadays, right, is so you come in and do dirt work, right?
Yep.
So if I come in and I fill in, right?
Mm-hmm. Just fill dirt, yeah.
Right? And I fill in. Mm-hmm. If I come in and cut, I can build almost immediately.
Right.
If I come in and fill,
yep.
you were supposed to allow, and I forgot, but it's
There's a time frame.
It's an absorbent amount of time.
Yeah, because
It's absurd. It's like a year. I think it's actually more than a year that you actually have to allow that fill dirt to settle and do its normal thing before you build on, right? And they don't do that. They come in, they do what they need to do, and just boom, 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 boom.
Well, we saw that
and then
here.
you watch as they settle, the cracking in the joints and all this other stuff in the drywall. And people are like, why is this happening? It's because you bought a house that they built on fill dirt that they didn't allow to settle, and the next thing you know, your foundation is cracking.
Well, it's because what happens is like here, for example, you have all this influx of out of state people, right?
Yeah. That's
so they never saw
10 new houses.
They never saw the condition of the lots that they're moving on to.
Right.
And they think, oh, well, this is pre-existing mountainside property. They didn't have to do anything. No, we watched them do all kinds of crazy shit to get those to a lot that was buildable.
Yep.
But it was a rush job on almost every single one of them. And even the ones that are down in that low spot, that was like a floodplain.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering at what point some of those houses are going to start sinking and they're going to have all kinds of structural issues. And those builders are either going to be in litigation or whatever. Again, another thing you don't have to fucking worry about when you buy a camper.
Oh,
so
it's uneven. Let me change my jack level.
Yeah, or go move to a new fucking lot.
Exactly.
You know, I do like that about the flexibility in a camper is that if you don't like something, you just move. Or you trade it in and get a different one. It's a lot easier than, buying and selling a home.
You know what's funny? What I hear the biggest reason why I don't like living in campers, like this is what I hear usually, is they're too small.
It depends on what you get. Like
but that's usually the reasoning is they're too small. And I'm like, really? Because you can get a 52-footer with 5 slide outs, 2 bathrooms, 3 bedrooms, a giant kitchen, like this whole paddy wagon kind of thing, right?
Those are people that live in 2,000 to 3,000 square foot home. Yeah, a camper is small.
But then you see those people living in a 2,000 square foot home, right? It's 2 people.
Right.
And you're like...
Or you see the people that are in these high-rise apartments in, like, Nashville, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're spending $3,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And they're living in less space than what your camper is.
Right. Square footage wise. See, this is where that differs, though, is because a lot of those people, one, are paying for... access to the location.
Oh, I get that.
Right? So
But they have a campground in Nashville. It's like right outside Grand Ole Opry area or whatever.
Yes, but it's...
So you're still super close to Nashville.
You're not. So if you notice over there by Grand Ole Opry, there's no high-rises. No. That's all downtown, right? So if I'm paying that because I want to be downtown. I want to be able to walk to bars. I want to be able to walk to the... whatever nightlife they got going on.
That's another good thing with campers. You can boondock.
Yep.
So you don't even have to worry. Like you have that generator, so you could literally park anywhere.
I mean, you can park in Walmart's parking lot for free.
Well, people do that all the time, like when they're traveling cross country or whatever.
But I'm saying, like, we could hook up and drive to Walmart's parking lot.
When I had to take mine to Camper World for work that needed to be done on it, I parked in Camping World's parking lot that morning because I got there early. I slept in my camper, and then when they opened in the morning, I just walked out of my camper right to the door. I was like, hey.
Okay.
They didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised. I thought that for sure somebody was going to be like, what are you doing sleeping in our parking lot? But they didn't say shit.
I mean, if I'm in my camper in a camping store parking lot of any kind and you come out and have a problem with it, fuck you. You just lost my business for eternity, and I'm posting a nasty review.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said about being comfortable with living in a camper too. You have to have a level of...
You kind of have to be a little bit of a minimalist.
Well, but I was thinking thick-skinned, right? Because you're take a lot of barbs from people like, oh, you live in a camper? Like,
some people. I mean, I'll say in the last...
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
4 years,
typically
nobody cares anymore.
Yeah, but typically girls aren't going to be so, if they're uppity, they're going to be really like, ew, you live in a camper?
You would be amazed at how many single women I've encountered at the campgrounds now.
Yeah.
Because they're traveling nurses.
Well, now, yeah.
You know, or
but that's what I'm saying. Like, the culture is changing.
Or even like some welders that are women and stuff, because it's like, hey, I'm moving for my job.
But traditionally,
like that's actually what my cousins want to do once they finish their nursing degrees.
Yeah,
is get a camper.
I think traditionally though, you have people that didn't do the campground experience growing up.
Oh, absolutely.
And so they already have a preconceived notion that, you know, you're either trailer trash, like I was saying before, you're super poor or something.
Or you grew up in a house that's 2,500 square feet.
Or something weird's going on. There's a big red flag to them that you're living in a camper and you don't have a real house.
Right.
But that's not always the case. And it's just some people's preference.
And then the funny thing is what I look at is like, I live in a camper, right?
Mm-hmm.
A large portion of people rent.
Yep.
Okay. You're paying probably double my camper payment.
Yep.
Maybe even triple.
And you don't even own it.
And you don't own it.
Yep. Now it makes sense if you are military, right?
Right, but so who's the dummy here? Yeah, who's the dummy now?
Right. And if you're smart and you can take that money that you're saving from not paying a mortgage or
clear out debt and all kinds of other stuff.
Right, clear out debt. You can save it for when you retire. You want to build a big house or buy a lot to build a house later. I think that would be the wise choice for a lot of people coming up now. I would try to even convince my son, like, hey, dude, when you get of age, you'd be wise to just get yourself one of those small pull-behind campers that's got a bed, a shower, toilet, a small kitchenette inside, or even a full kitchen, whatever. You only need like a 15-footer. It's just you, dude. You know, it's the same size as like a dorm room would be in college.
Right.
And just live in that. Like if I would have known about this back in the day, I would have bought one when I was going to college the first time around.
Right.
And just lived in a fucking camper. Because that would have been way better. You don't have to worry about all the issues that go on with living in the dorms and everything else with the fucking RAs and all the noise complaints, and nosy people and everything else. Having to deal with like checking your IDs because you gotta, do you actually live in this dormitory?
I mean, especially if you have a job that allows you to do nothing but telework.
Yeah, absolutely. I would.
My
absolutely
opinion,
do that.
if you are a full-time teleworker and you're not living in a camper, or you're at least not having a camper and moving around, right? You're out of your mind.
Yeah, I would absolutely do that.
I am being paid to work 5 days a week or whatever it is,
and they don't care where I'm at.
Not be in the office, and they don't care where I'm at.
Oh, I'd be traveling everywhere.
Why would I not travel?
Now, it makes sense why some people don't, because if they have a family and they don't want to uproot their kids constantly from schools.
That's understandable.
That's understandable. But if you're a single person or a couple with no kids, and you're both telecommuting, why the fuck would you not? Like, that's a perfect benefit to having an RV or a camper, is that flexibility to just travel around and see new spots. Whereas when you have a house, you're usually locked in. Like they usually say, you're house poor. Because a lot of people, what they do is they overextend themselves and they get these homes, and then you're fucking stuck inside of it. Forever. Like 30-year mortgage. Yeah. Like, this is our forever home. Like, yeah, you're probably going to die in it because you have to pay on it for 30 fucking years. Idiot. But
listen to Tom Selleck and do a reverse mortgage.
No, thank you.
Is that what that is?
A reverse mortgage?
Yeah, is that what he advertises?
There's all kinds of dumb shit that they do these days for that. But I don't know. I think we covered quite a bit of the perks and the downsides too.
But really, what we've just discovered is there's very little downside to living into a camper.
Oh, I never said there was a great downside.
Like, really, the downside is people
idea.
Just not understanding living in a camper and how simple, but at the same time, how convenient it is.
That's because there's so much stigma. Everyone, it's always the rat race mentality. Bigger, better, faster, newer.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
All that bullshit. It's just noise. It's all
you're
bullshit.
The Jeffersons and you moving on up.
Yeah.
To the east side.
And I get having aspirations and goals. Like, I get it. I went through that most of my life of, like, I got to have a bigger, better, house. I got to have a bigger, better car. I got to have a bigger, better whatever. Not necessarily is it needed. It's just it's a ego massage.
Now, like, don't get me wrong, right? I plan on retiring in a couple of years, and I plan on having a stationary planted house that I'm going to build.
Right.
Right? But for me, at that point, okay, I'm retired. I know where I'm going,
Right.
and I'm going to be here permanently.
Yeah.
Now it is time for me to have a home here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But if I'm going to keep moving for my job,
Yep.
why?
Yeah.
Because now I either have to rent it and
Yep.
hire somebody to manage it, or I have to sell it.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of people make good money doing that flip-flop stuff or renting properties.
And there's nothing that says you can't live in a camper and still have a workshop on if you have a property that you're living on. There's a lot of people that do that.
Oh, yeah. They'll bring in a camper. Next thing you know, somebody just bought a piece of property. Next thing you know, there's a camper on it.
Yep.
Month later, there's a workshop on it.
Mm-hmm.
A year later, there's finally a house on it.
Yep.
Right?
So it's another good idea for people that are afraid of, oh, it's going to take forever to build a house on this lot or whatever. Well, you could buy a camper, live on the property while your house is being built. There's nothing that says you can't do that. And then now you have a camper for weekend excursions.
Yep.
Family trips or whatever.
Or a guest comes over.
I've offered that up several times.
Yep.
Like, hey, if you want, you can stay in my camper. If you don't want to stay in the house, like, whatever. Or I'll stay in the fucking camper and you can stay in the house. I don't give a shit. Like, I told people that. Like, we
watched the Super Bowl in your camper.
We did. It was a fucking good time though. It was convenient. That's another thing. There's a lot of these campers. They come pretty decked out with technology.
They do.
They're ready.
Outdoor speakers,
They're
the
ready.
lighting. They are 100%
They're party
ready to do whatever you need.
They are party ready. I do like that. With the awning and the lights underneath the awning, that's perfect. And then the outside, like mine's got the outdoor kitchen with the fridge and everything out there. So it's totally out. It's totally party ready. I do like that about the campers. Not a lot of downside.
There really isn't.
No. So with that, I think that's gonna wrap it up for this episode.
Always wrap it up.
I don't always wrap it up. That's why I have a kid.
Fair.
Sometimes you just gotta roll with it.
Sometimes you just gotta wrap that rascal.
Wrap that rascal. Wrap the rascal. Well, that wraps it up for us here at Bourbon Sauce. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. The more you like and share, the better the chances are we can grow the channel. Plus, the algorithms love it. Also, check out our Instagram page at www.instagram.com/Bourbon Sauce, where you can see clues on upcoming episodes as well as see photos that pertain to our podcast, and you can message us there to give feedback and interact with us. Hope you come back. Until next time, enjoy your favorite beverage and get sauced.
Cheers.